Okay, this video is going to be about explaining some of the terms you might hear in theatre. So, what's a Frenchman, what's a Vom, and what is a vampire? Now, they might not be quite what you'd initially expect. Now, before we go anywhere though, first of all, I set a caption competition with this image on the Actors UK Facebook group, so pop on and join in the conversations if you haven't already. There's some interesting stuff going on there. I said the winner of the competition would get a shout out on my next video. So, that's this. So the winner was Ryan D. Williams with "When the deodorant said push up bottom, is this not what it meant?" Ali Bitumen is correct though that we do need to get some more women to get involved for future captions, so keep your eyes peeled for future competitions and I'll come up with some actual prizes for them too as well, so keep watching. Okay, now let's get down to brass tacks. Frenchmen, Voms and Vamps. Now I'm going to start with the most difficult one, which was Frenchman. It took quite a bit of investigation. Now, this is not just a man from France, and if you do Wikipedia, it will give you French people as a result, so that's not exactly helpful. A Frenchman is another name for a number of flats fixed together with battens, also known as a French flat, and once it's flown in from the fly floor, it's held in position with some French braces. So a French brace is a rigid triangular timber brace attached via hinges so that when the flat is not in use it can be folded flat for storage or just be moved. There's a lot of French things going on there. So why are they all French? Well, that is still not completely clear. I've had to do quite some digging around, and so I've come up with this theory. And by the way, if there are any theatrical professors around watching this who would like to prove me wrong or even better, point me in the right direction, that'd be brilliant. Thanks. So, one of the first countries to establish mechanical movement of sets was France. I mean, it was actually an Italian by the name of Giacomo Torelli, who was initially a military engineer in Venice. He worked out and developed ingenious machines, including a revolving stage and chariot and pole system. And the chariot and pole system is where the stage had slots into the floor, and big panels or flats would slide along them. But another third of the flat was below the stage, attached to a pulley system, so that a stagehand could turn a winch or bring on these flats on and off without anyone else having to help. So Torelli was called to France in 1645 to equip the Théâtre des Petits Bourbons in Paris with his new machinery, and he continued to work in France until around 1662, and everywhere wanted what he had. Now, so here's an image from a theatre in the Czech Republic that shows the mechanics underneath the stage. That was part of this chariot and pole system, and this image shows it in much more detail. Needless to say, it totally revolutionised set changes within performances. So these flats and the area in the wings in which they stayed were also referred to as coulisses, because they slide, like a porte-coulisse, a sliding gate or door. So when the stages were redeveloped and the flats were then flown into view as opposed to sliding, I think it would have been deemed to be in the style of French theatre, therefore a French flat, French place. So, a Frenchman, a group of flats that are flown into view as they are not part of a fixed set or theatrical truck. Don't forget to keep watching to find out what a vampire is in the theatre. Next, we have the Vom, or the Vomitorium, to give it its full name. Now, it has been said that vomitoria were what the ancient Romans called the designated spaces for the purpose of literal vomiting as part of a social event. There were vomit collectors in the Roman banquet halls, and Romans apparently did practice binging and purging during feasts, but it does not appear that they had specialised rooms for this purpose that were called vomitoria. No. But you can see why they might have thought that. The Latin word vomo means to spew forth. And anyone who's been to Newcastle upon Tyne during Freshers' Week will have seen a lot of Latin vomo through the tune. Anyway, vomitoria are actually passages situated below or behind a tier of seats in an amphitheatre or a stadium, through which big crowds can exit rapidly at the end of a performance. I mean, literally, the audience would spew out from the mouth of the tunnel at the end of the performance. Must have been a bad show. Anyway, there can also be pathways for actors to enter and leave the stage, and this is used a lot in theatres that have extended stage areas. So here is a picture of my local theatre, the Hollow Playhouse. As you can see, the stage wraps around the first 6 rows of the seating, and there's a vom exit on both stage left and stage right. Now, one thing you have to be careful of is when you're carrying stuff and you can't see clearly in front of you. I witnessed firsthand a kind, generous cast member bringing food and drink for the crew. He walked out from the stage left vom and thinking he'd got to the main stage area, realised he hadn't, because he was 2 foot short behind and 1 foot too far over, literally. The poor lad toppled sideways, and like any other theatre professional, we wet ourselves laughing before we eventually went to find out if he was okay. So, there you have it. A vom is a vomitorium, a passage in a performance venue for audiences to leave or actors to get about. Alright, last but by no means least, and I know you've been waiting patiently, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos on theatre and acting. Anyway, we finally get to vampires. No, not that sort of vampire. Or is it? So we've already brushed with special theatre mechanics in the Frenchman explanation, and this is another. Traps in theatre are concealed openings, usually in the stage floor, through which actors, props and scenery can be brought on and off stage. Traps are used often with elaborate and ingenious machinery to create a variety of stage effects, particularly the sudden appearance, disappearance or apparent transformation of characters or objects on the stage. A vampire is a specific type of trapdoor. So, the vampire trap was a new kind of trapdoor invented for an 1820 adaptation of Polidori's The Vampire. It had 2 sprung doors that swung closed as soon as pressure was released, allowing actors to walk through walls or floors. These trapdoors were often masked by stage smoke and lighting effects to hide the mechanics of how they worked. It was created to allow the undead vampire to rise up out of the grave. The changes in stage floors made possible new scenic effects to meet the audience demand. The traps of the Elizabethan and Georgian eras, for instance, were greatly elaborate. The most famous trap was a ghost glide, a sort of dumbwaiter that actors appear to rise from the earth and glide through space. Apparently there is still an existing one on the Isle of Man in the theatre there. The vampire is not the most spectacular of the trapdoors in theatre though. If you want spectacle, then you'll want to have a look at the star trap. This is where someone is literally catapulted up through the floor, and while they are in the air, the series of little flaps in a, you guessed it, star shape, close back down to create a place for the actor to land. I've put a little link if you want to have a look. Of course, trapdoors and other hidden platforms are quite dangerous. Just ask Gemma Collins. Well, that's it for this video. Now I've taken you through Frenchman, Voms and Vamps. Okay, so I hope you've learned lots, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. And yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for more competitions, fun, improv, all sorts of things like that. Take care. Bye-bye.